Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to VTP Stage 2 Online, Technical Tuesday Coaching Call number 200 for the 14th of July 2026. I hope you've had a good week. I hope you have had some enjoyable trading sessions in what is once again another eventful week and an eventful month and an eventful quarter and an eventful year that is 2026. As the old Chinese saying goes, may you live in interesting times. And I think it's probably fair to say we have been. As you said, this is the 200th, of the Stage 2 Technical Tuesday coaching calls, hence why I have opened it up to live stream. If you're joining us there on YouTube live stream, it's great to have you here with us. It's really fascinating to have people here. And I hope that you're able to take a little bit of insight from this. This is the weekly call that we do every Tuesday, 12 o'clock, 12:30 rather, just looking at a little bit more of the kind of some of the technical details within FX indices and commodities markets. As always, you are very welcome here, but just remember that you're always responsible for your own trading decisions. And if you want a little bit of help in sustaining and improving your performance, there is the VTP Trader Accountability Group that is running this quarter, helping build discipline, accountability, and consistency in your trading. You can ping me if you've got questions, or that QR code will take you there, or there's a bit.ly code that will take you there that you can see there. Or as I said, you can ping me if you've got any questions. If we look at the COP report, in particular, COP report for UK, all right, that's what, sterling is what I trade the most of, all right. Looking at where are we, what's this telling us, how can this help us? Well, what we see is that the kind of large speculators have consistently been short. They might have eased up a little bit over the last week or so, whereas the big commercials have been long, all right, and that probably basically gives us an indication of where, we have seen a kind of a little bit of a shift there in sterling. A lot of that, I think, is also down to sort of shenanigans in the dollar. But when we look at the kind of numbers, when I look at the large speculators, they're 44,000 long, 132,000 short, so they are clearly, their biases has been to the short side. Yep, they've added longs and they've trimmed their shorts, but they're still pretty much on the short side, as opposed to the commercials who, whilst they do have 110,000 shorts, they are still long, all right, 208,000 contracts. They may have trimmed an awful lot out of it, but they're still long. What we're seeing is even the kind of non-reportable, the kind of the sort of what they always like to think of as the dumb money, which is also right. They have consistently still been short, all right. Yep, they've trimmed, and we're starting to add longs there, so. If the non-commercials, if the speculators are starting to kind of trim their positions, then you have to wonder, are we getting, as I said, maybe next week? I'll be interested to see next week's numbers and the week after little Mr. Burnham's coronation, to see how the big boys, respond to that, so. You can see what the positioning is at the moment. As I said, I'll be fascinated to see if this shifts completely over the next week or two, all right, and the impact that has on, sterling, gilts, and FTSE, etc. So that's what we're looking at there. Okay, and as always, let's finish off with sterling. So this is my sterling profile. I've got pound against dollar, pound against yen, euro, sterling, pound Swissy, pound Aussie, pound Kiwi, pound CAD, and the FTSE. So let's just focus on the sterling, because I appreciate we've overrun a little bit. I do apologise, but as always, there's lots for me to share with you. So let's look at pound against dollar. We have been in that trend, that downtrend of, sterling weakness, but mostly dollar strength. But you can see for yourself that has kind of changed, as we talked about, as those commercials are long, the non-commercials are short, all right? And what happened is we ran our way nicely up into these moving averages here, the 50, the 200, all right? We worked our way up there and pin barred, and then yesterday we kind of fell down. We've had a little bit of a respite on that, but I'll be interested to see how that plays through. As I said, Burnham's getting, his coronation, all right, and at some point he's going to have to start answering questions, all right, and I think what will happen is we'll be found out that he's even weaker in the head than Starmer, but that could just be me, all right, we'll see. But what we have seen, as I said, is this the kind of the pump before the dump? All right, is this the pump? He gets his coronation, and then invariably, on his first day, he announces Miliband as his chancellor, and basically Sterling just gets dumped massively. Okay, that is one scenario that I might sort of say, watch out for and look for. Okay, nobody's really interested in Burnham. Everybody's sort of they're already bored of him. Nobody really, knows, and nobody's really interested in him. Everybody's looking at, well, who's going to be chancellor? That's the question that's going to be. Okay, but yeah, we can see the way that that's played out. All right, so on the 4 hour chart, we kind of gapped down a little bit, pulled up, and dropped away down. And as I said, this morning was kind of interesting. All right, intraday. All right, so we kind of we hit our lows, all right, and then worked our way up, bit of PO20, worked our way up there. Okay, there was a bit of Pac-Man going on there for me, but that kind of intermediate trend is kind of a little bit of a pullback on yesterday. As I said, remember we're running into CPI in about 25 minutes. That will undoubtedly have a say on it all in a moment. Pound against yen. Yeah, pound against yen, you can see we talked about this kind of wedge triangle building. We broke out of it. We came back, retested it. Okay, if you like trading triangles, and we've worked our way up. As I said yesterday, this was it's a bit of an evening star on the daily chart there, all right. But we'll see. As I said, maybe we still get a little bit of sterling work and right higher. Okay, so we'll see what the GDP numbers are like on Thursday, and we'll also, as I said, everybody's waiting to see who's going to be the chancellor. That's the kind of overlying thing on that. Pound against Swiss. Yeah, pound against Swiss has been, the good trade. Remember what we just looked at in terms of Kiwi dollar against Swiss franc. Swiss franc has been weakening its way. The S&P said at the start of the war they were going to use it as an opportunity to weaken, and they have done that. Okay, and that's why we've seen this kind of work its way nicely up. All right, and it's just continued to move higher, and that is some sterling strength, but a lot of Swiss weakness as well. Pound against Kiwi. Well, we just looked at that, didn't we? And you can see that Kiwi dollar strengthening there. You can see it's working its way up there. Pound against Aussie. On that daily chart, we had seen some sterling strength, but I wonder if we're double topping out here. Okay, around about 93. Is that a double top? Let's just see how this moving average holds. Let's see how these VBs hold. That's what I'll be looking to see. That's there's the high. Okay, that's the VB, and so I'll be looking to see kind of a 190, 150. All right, is that a change in the structure there? Pound against Canadian dollar. That had been a nice trend because pound CAD is not always the nicest thing, easiest thing to trade on the swing. But, last month it kind of worked its way. But now I look at that, that's a bit of a double top, triple top, you might say, depending on how you look at it. I would look at that as a DTB 1, 2, 3 double top. It's broken the 0.2, and now we're looking to see, well, actually, can it follow through? Can it work its way from that? All right, is that what we're going to be looking at? Okay, so yeah, better Canadian data, better UK data. It might be messy until then. All right, so just watch and shoot if it comes up and then looks like it's going to leg down. Finally, euro against sterling. You've heard me banging on about this descending triangle for months. Okay, all right, talking about how that kind of 86.20, 86.30 area is acting as support. But boom, once we finally broke it, we've really worked our way down there. Okay, and that daily chart I was talking about it. That level of support was holding, but the highs were getting lower. You're getting lower highs, support, break. And once we've broke, we've just worked our way down there nicely. And now I look at that, well, yesterday we did close higher, all right, euro against sterling, but that's the VB. That's what I look at. That's the VB. And until that, I'm bearish until I see, a difference in that. Okay. And that, as I said, there's an element of that euro weakness. I talked a little bit about it yesterday in terms of looking at the CACs. I think basically it's Bastille Day today, isn't it? Or they've got the Bastille Day parade in Paris, but invariably it's going to be Macron's last one, and naturally everybody's interested to see, is it going to be Le Pen who's going to be the president in at the next elections? All right, and I wonder if that's what's being replicated there or represented there. Okay, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Let us draw it to a close there. Okay, as you know, I'm kind of flying through this as fast as I can be. Okay, but as always, I'm trying to just share with you as much as I possibly can in the time we've got available. If you've not seen this before, I hope you find it useful. I hope it gives you a little bit of help and insight into what we cover on stage 2 and how we are to build that picture to give us an indication of where's the strength and where's the weakness within FX indices and commodities markets and how we utilize that, okay, for our own trading endeavors. as always, it is going to be an interesting week. So make sure you're on top of your risk management. Make sure you're on top of the news flow. Make sure you're on top of the order flow. Have a fabulous trading week. I wish you every success with your trading endeavors. And I'll speak to you soon, everybody. Take care. Cheers.